Peoples. All right, peace, people. This was a last minute thing I figured I'd do. It was not planned. Just to go over a few things. All right, so bear with me. All right. Get myself situated here. Like I said, it's a last minute thing here. Wasn't something planned. I just figured I'd touch on just a few things. Again, bear with me. And I will get started in a sec. Once I'm able to connect something here, just be patient. And then I will get it going. All right, you see the title. So this ain't going to be too long of a live, probably about an hour or so, a little more than an hour. It's a few things I wanted to go over because of what we're getting ready or going to be getting ready to do next month. So I figure I'd start mapping that out while I had the chance now. All right. So hold on. Bear with me. All right. All right, cool. There we go. All right. So what I kind of wanted to get into, and again, I'm going to kind of go through this pretty much as quick as I can. But what I wanted to touch on first before I do that, just go over a couple of quick announcements real quick before I begin. Like I said, this was last minute. It ain't gonna stay on too long. I didn't post this or send out really a notification. Just something I wanted to kind of squeeze in before tomorrow. All right, but anyway, just go over a couple of quick things before we. Hold on one sec. Before I get into it, just want to make sure I got everything set up here. Again, most of these will probably catch this after it posts live because, again, it was a last minute thing. But before we begin, just to go over a few things real quick, a couple quick announcements. This Wednesday, being the 23rd, I'll send out a notification one last time. This Wednesday, being the 23rd, will be the final cutoff day as far as requesting an invite for this weekend's. Friday's ritual, which is weekend, which is the 25th. So Wednesday will be the cutoff day. I'll send that information out one last time. That will begin on Friday the 25th at 8 o'clock. All right. Again, you have up until 2 more days. We have responded to those that have requested invites. We will send those out. And verify. But again, Wednesday is a cutoff day, so I just want to throw that out there. And again, I'll only be on here for a little bit over an hour or so because I have something to do at 5 o'clock. Again, it was last minute, so this wasn't nothing planned. I didn't post it, so if you had the chance to catch it, cool. If not, you'll have to catch it when it uploads as soon as it's done. And I'm sure some people who can't catch it now will catch it later. Also, just a reminder about the Primordial Chaos radio show. We will be having Bokor Rodney Coleman coming on the next show. Spoke with him yesterday. We've had him on in the past. He is a Bokor and Voodoo from the New Orleans Pantheon. So we've had him on before in the past. We'll be having him on on that next upcoming show. So look for that. That'll be coming. I'll put something out for that in the next day or two. And then we have some more guests lined up after Bokor Rodney Coleman. So that'll be coming up on the Primordial Chaos radio show in the next episode. We are working on tested a few things. We will get it where it will post to the YouTube. We had little issues with that last time, but we're going to work on that, try to get that fixed and corrected. Okay. So yeah, brother Rodney Coleman will be on the next show. We'll be interviewing him on the different aspects of the Voodoo Pantheon. We'll get into certain techniques. I'm going to speak with him about Saint Expedite and working with certain spirits. And then you guys will have a chance to actually call in and ask him questions and speak to him, or maybe some questions that you might have. All right. Also, an idea had come to me. Reason why I had picked this topic, because next month, the concept of what or the principles of Sithism represent. Okay. We are going to do a ritual or / working initiation into what it is, or what the Sith principles or being Sith represents. I don't want people to get caught up in the physical and the external stuff. It's a little deeper than that. It's the concept and the mind ideology of what it represents. The initiation and the ritual, all right, will be based on adopting those principles, adopting the mindset, understanding how to approach your work with that type of mindset. Because in nature, obviously, it's very left-hand path. It deals with path of self-mastery. It deals with black magic. There's actually literally absorption techniques or energy draining techniques, if you've studied Sithism or Sith principles, which would obviously be very left-hand path, vampiric in nature. In the whole Sith philosophy, it incorporates a multitude of different elements from different paths. That's, in my opinion, what makes it very unique, which makes it a little bit different than some other paths. And again, the main thing we want to focus on is being able to adapt some of the techniques in your path. Just like anything else, it's very Luciferian in nature too. But just like anything else, if we just focus on the aspect of getting caught up in, do I need to be, full-fledged and exclusive to something? Absolutely not. But you can use a lot of these methods, concepts, and principles in your work and incorporate them as you see fit. I've been doing it for several years now. I actually keep, I'll have it back there somewhere. I don't know if you can see it. I think you can see it if you look there in the corner. On my altar, I keep a representation of that Sith energy when doing work. But what I want to focus on, particularly in this video, for about an hour or so, like I said, I'm going to be cutting this off a little bit before 5. The 9 pillars of Sithism, and where I'm getting this from, I'm just going to focus on this exclusively in this video. And if I have some time, I'll take some brief questions and comments. I'm taking this from a book called The Dark Lords, all right? And there's a group, I just want to make this clear. Let me put this disclaimer out there. There's a group that's been out there for a couple of years call themselves Sith Academy. There's many different Sith groups, orders, organizations. I want to make this clear. I'm not promoting the organization or the group. I actually looked into it a few years back, actually started some work with them. But I actually found it to be very overly structured and religious. as far as not the information. I want to focus on some of their information in books. They do have a lot of good concepts and techniques because they have extracted, kind of put their own, twist on certain things, but incorporated a lot of other spiritual systems, left-hand path concepts and aspects from different areas that are very beneficial. So I want to make this clear. It's just my opinion. I ain't speaking for nobody else. If some of you have come across it, you're probably familiar with what I'm talking about. The structure itself is too clicky to me. It's too structured. It's too having a hierarchy, having control. I ain't with all that shit. And really being a Sith, that's probably something a Sith doesn't adhere to, is being controlled or disciplined or being told what to do. But just like every other group, organization, or club, unfortunately, that's some of the bullshit that comes along with it. So I want to make this clear. I'm not promoting the group organization. I'm not encouraging anybody to join. That's your business. I will point out some information in their books, which I've got a few of their books of interest. This is The Masters of the Will. It's another good book. It's got some good work and rituals you can do in there. These are just some of the main ones I have. The Templar Handbook. This one is really good. I'm going to be going over some stuff in here another time. Lords of the Force. All right. And if you are familiar with some of these books already, you'll understand what I'm talking about as far as everything I just said a minute or two ago. There's a reason why I said it. I'm going to focus on some of the key information. Again, I want to make it clear. I do not adhere or agree to everything in those books. But as we know, being masters on this path, it is up to us as gods, goddesses, rulers of our destiny, to choose and apply to our path what we see fit. So I just want to make that clear. You do that with any level of information you come across or study. That's how I approach my study. That's how I approach gathering information, doing my reading, et cetera, et cetera. You make those choices, okay? So I want to make sure I'm clear before I say that, because I don't want anybody to think that I'm promoting that. Now, again, the idea for next month in this Sith initiation type of ritual, consecrating yourself in the mindset and aspect of what it means and how you apply that in your daily techniques. Very important, okay? And that's the focus. And I'll get a little bit more into that as we get closer to that. So the 9 pillars of Sithism out of the Dark Lord's book, okay? The primacy of power. I'm going to go through them real quick, have a quick discussion. And I think we need to, this is important, the primacy of power. What is good? All that heightens the feeling of power, the will to power, power itself in man, but in this case, women. What is bad? All that proceeds from weakness. What is happiness? The feeling that power increases, that a resistance is overcome. This is the diamond rule of Sithism. Now, we know passion is our power, is the first key thing, or the power within itself, all right? Anything that exposes or exploits, like as it's saying here, a weakness within the individual, that would, quote unquote, be a perception of something bad. But in this path, you're shown how to strengthen your will and correct those things. A lot of these concepts are very left-hand path in nature, very left-hand path in origin. It all deals with self-mastery. So we have to understand that when we're looking at this first pillar, we want to make sure we're clear. This is all applied to self. This doesn't deal with any external aspects or forces coming from somewhere else or someplace outside of you. This is how, again, the reason why I want to go through these real quick right now, because I was just going through some of this stuff studying. I said, let me pop on here and go through them real quick, because this is a good aspect to use to kind of grade yourself, to see, use it as a critique to grade yourself, to see where your mindset is and how you approach your work, okay? Why is that important? Because when you develop a system such as this or these examples, you need to be able to chart your growth and be honest with yourself. And be honest with yourself in the sense, when you look back and you reflect, and can you honestly say there's growth there? If you can, power to you. If you can't, then that would be a telltale sign to reevaluate yourself and put some other plan into play. All right. If we don't do this on a regular basis and we just convince ourselves we're deep and we're studying and we're reading all this shit and we're making all these claims, I'm this and I'm that, that's just delusional. All right. So that's the primacy of power pillar. The second one, the tale of Darwin. Darwin evolution is the central fact of life on this planet. We all know that's basic science, right? From the simplest microbes to the most complex intelligent life forms, from genes to memes, nations to corporations. Everything in nature exists in a perpetual struggle for dominance. That's the key fact I want to focus on, the second pillar. And that's basically describing us, but I'm going to go back to that in a second. The struggle is the source of all progress, all empowerment, all evolution. The Sith therefore embrace Darwinism as a moral imperative as far as what it represents, right? Because I think this is what we all do in the sense, while we're on this path, we all struggle for that empowerment. We work towards that empowerment. And most of all, dominance. Dominance in the sense that we want to be superior at what it is we do in our craft, in our work. And obviously that's fueled by our passion, right? And passion, as we always talk about on this path, lies heavily in fueling your intent. Are you passionate about what you do? Is that passion translating over into your work, especially when you're fueling the intent of a particular ritual or working, something that you're trying to carry out or accomplish? If not, I can more or less guarantee you it's a waste of time and it's not going to work, pretty much. Okay? Passion is critical even when you're doing ritualistic works that deal with invocations and performative utterance. Are you just going into your rituals like a robot and a zombie with no passion and doing your invocations? When you deal with Luciferian magic, when you deal even with the aspect of Egyptian Luciferian magic, there is a lot of invocations and performative utterance work. Okay, there's power in the words, and the power and the passion from you is what charges the power of those words. Don't just look. You will not ever understand magic when it comes to invocation if you just think it's just verbal rehearsed dialogue that you're spitting, because you're the one fueling it and charging it. If you don't understand that, then you're completely going to get confused and it's not going to work for you. All right. So that second pillar, I want to focus on the aspect of it of dominance, right? Of being able to be superior, but also understanding the struggle it takes in obtaining that dominance. It's not, look, ain't nobody ever said shit was going to be easy, right? And I will never promote anything as being completely easy, because anything that doesn't involve work, anything that doesn't involve you putting your effort and energy into it to making it happen is just a bunch of bullshit. So remember, on this path, we're not readers. We're not what I like to say, the sports analogy where they say armchair quarterbacks. We're not armchair magicians. We don't sit back and just read books and take on titles and say I'm this and I'm that just because I read a fucking book and I like it and it sounds cool, so I'm just going to start saying I'm this and that. No. This is about, by way of your works and actions, is how you obtain that dominance, right? And there will be struggle in that. The third pillar, because I'm going to get through all 9 of them. This is real quick. And then I'll go through some quick comments. Again, it's not going to be a long video. Something I want to do last minute. I actually have a consultation at 5 o'clock, so I will cut this off a little bit before that. Actually, a few this evening, so I will not be on here too long. I will be on, as a reminder, if you're watching tomorrow, as you know, you see it posted, we'll be going over Obia and the Path of Papa Bones. That will be tomorrow's regular Tuesday night feed video. All right. The Force. The Sith believe that life, listen to this. The Sith believe that life is charged with a vital energy called the Force, right? There's no difference than the chi that you know of in Asian culture and philosophy. It's no different than Sekhem, your power or energy in Egyptian Luciferian practice. Because remember, these Sith principles deal with sorcery, work in different aspects of magic. Again, I mentioned energy training. There is a form of thatness. I'm going to get into some of these techniques probably in the next video I do, where I'll be on here for a while. I'm kind of going to get a little more in depth into enforcing the will, which is one of the key elements of a Sith. And now, if that is not identical to what greater black magic is or entails, because greater black magic is enforcing your will upon a situation for the outcome that you desire, right? Desire is fueled by what, people? Passion. The passion you put behind it is a strong determinant. People overlook that shit. Making the statement from here is not the same as, do you really acknowledge it within here? And is it coming from here? Remember, the heart chakra is where that primal power is raised up from. Your passion, your desire. That heart chakra is the emotional center that you tap in to that raw, primordial, chaotic energy. Be it love, hate, desire, whatever you want to, that's the seat that it comes from. There's ritualistic work in the Sith order, knowing how to activate those energies and emotions and getting in tune with them, because they all are productive for certain reasons and certain times. And you learn that. That's how you enforce your will, right? Okay, so it also would be likened to the Shakti in the Hindu or the Dravidian pantheon and manner and other traditions. Cultivating the force is the key to increasing one's personal power and obtaining Sith mastery, all right? The force, the energy, right? You could also liken the force or the energy back to that primordial chaos, that primordial energy that we so referred to in this path where everything manifests from, right? Because that's that raw energy that doesn't have any limitations, any boundaries, can't really be classified, because that's what a Sith works in, that chaotic darkness, because all things emerge from the chaotic darkness. Now, you will also understand in a lot of these different orders, okay, there's similarities, whether you look at the Assassins and the Templars, any of these orders, the Dark Lords or the Siths, right? When you look at the priesthood of Set or Anubu or Ampu, you'll see the brotherhoods and these sisterhoods that deal with the energy of the dark side. There's always that synonymous with wearing black, the symbols. All of this is connected to the same ideology and mindset. So the ritual that I was talking about, that will be the plan for next month, will be dealing with adopting that concept and applying it. By doing the ritualistic work, you are actually taking the initiative, right? Listen to the play on words, which the initiative has root in the word initiation. The initiation will give you the initiative to apply these principles on a regular daily basis. Even if you'll start finding out when you do it, it'll just be something that quote unquote becomes kind of second nature, and you just kind of set out to do it. So we're focusing on in the ritualistic work, because again, I don't want people to get caught up in too much of the Hollywood shit, because again, as I said earlier, there's a lot of different Sith groups and orders out there. Some of them are too Star Wars-y for me. I'm not promoting that aspect of it. Now, in ritualistic work, in certain aspects, it's a great thing. And the work that we're going to do here for that next month, for the Sith order that we work with here, yes, you will be in full regalia. There is a time for that. Weaponry, to really bring out the power of the ritual. And I'm a big, firm supporter of that. But I tend to see, like other paths, sometimes that dominates it and just becomes too gimmicky. So I'll make it clear, I'm not promoting the super, Star Wars individual that's obsessed with it. And if that's your thing, that's your thing. Power to you. It is what it is. But that's not what I'm talking about. We're looking at it more from a mental and a spiritual perspective, because the concepts can be utilized anywhere, any place, anytime, and you can adapt it to your ritualistic work when you see fit. Very important. All right. The next pillar, okay, which is the fourth pillar, the power of the dark side. Man needs what is most evil in him for what is best in him, right? I always have said before, when somebody comes to a conclusion that something is evil, they make a judgment that something is evil, right? Ask yourself this. How can you draw that conclusion if you don't know what evil is? You would have to understand what evil is. What does it mean when you make that statement? That's a confirmation that you must or have or may not have acknowledged that there is that quote unquote evil that we like to describe as evil that resides within us, because that would be the only way we would be able to identify with it. You need, and I was just recently talking about this on a recent video, you need both of those harmonizing energies within you, or forces of the power. And that's what chi, sekhem, the force, that's what all that stuff represents. Understanding the full spectrum and aspects of what that is and what it represents. So as it says here, not just men, women, and that's the other thing I like to kind of shoot down. A lot of this stuff can be chauvinistic, but let's include the feminine in there, or the feminine. We need both of those forces within the human being to really understand ourselves, our correlation to nature, and really understanding this primordial chaos. So we know how to make order out of this primordial chaos. If we don't, then how are we going to attain our goals, right? To maximize his power, man must learn to embrace his mind shadow, which is another aspect of the shadow self, right? And awaken all aspects of his nature. Man's dark side can be his most potent ally, but only if it's brought under control with Sith discipline. So it doesn't mean, let's make this clear, it doesn't mean be all dark and destructive and don't have any type of discipline governing it, because the dark side, the darker aspect of your nature can be your greatest ally and can be the most empowering aspect of yourself. But you are going to have to cultivate that, bring it into shape and form. That's in a personal way. You have to customize it with your own personal touch that's going to work for you. That's where the discipline comes in. Because again, just like any other system, I want to make this clear. There's not one particular methodology that works for everybody. That doesn't exist. I don't care what anybody tells you. Don't let anybody fool you. On this path of self-mastery, and the key word in that phrase I say all the time is self, it does not exist. I don't care what anybody tells you. It's up to you as the individual, the initiate, the adept, the master, whatever fucking title makes you feel good. It is up to you to figure out exactly what that is. And as I said before, I want to keep stressing this. Stop thinking that you're going to get the answers from somewhere, someplace, or somebody all the time. There will be certain things on this path and journey you will have to figure out on your own. It's part of the process. There's no such thing as belonging, connected, or being a part of something where they're going to do everything for you. Connect the dots, give you all the answers. And I always have said this over the years. I've said this in classes, dialoguing with people, to clients. There are certain things you're going to have to figure out on your own. You cannot get the answers from some particular manual, book, or place. It's up to you to start raising yourself up to that level, to that understanding. Because if you're constantly looking somewhere else other than yourself for all the solutions, then there's a disconnect there, okay? All right? So that's dealing with the dark side, right? Or as we know on this path, left-hand path, dark magic, black magic, all those things that are connected and affiliated with would fall under that umbrella, all right? Now, this one here, temple network, which I'm not going to really go through that. That's more so for the order, but we can apply that in working. We can connect this concept, the importance and understanding the purpose and the concept of working in a group setting. And as I said this many times over the years in many videos, it does serve a purpose. You just need to understand the purpose that it serves and how you apply it to yourself. Again, I've always said, I'm a firm believer of anybody on this path. When I say believer, based on the experience, not on faith, I'm a firm supporter of the fact I think the adept should always experience both. because I find the adept that's not well harmonized lacks one or the other. Either you have an adept that's all they want to do is be part of groups and cliques, and there's no interpersonal growth. But then you also have the adept that just is so dark into themselves all the time, and they lack that interaction. They lack that versatility. They also lack, it's good to have other people to dialogue with to kind of, give you constructive criticism on your craft. Not that you won't be your worst critic, but sometimes we're not honest with ourselves. So in those group settings, as I mentioned many times in the past, for an example, when we do ritualistic work here, it's not just about, and I don't even like to call it ceremonial magic, because it's not. It's not ceremonial magic. We call it a working because it's designated to focus on something specific. It's not just a ceremony is something that's just more symbolic, or it's more of a gesture. It's more of a very organized, constructed thing. When we do workings here, there is collective and there's also individual aspects that the individual can participate in, right? So I think the individual, from my experience, not just with myself, from others, you need aspects of both to create that harmony. Now, it's up to you to understand how much of one you need. I'm not saying one needs to be, fully engaged in group ritual all the time. No, but I believe you should have some aspect of it, because obviously your most powerful work and your most powerful growth is going to be your personal individual work. But trust me, it serves a purpose. So I'm going to apply this particular pillar on that aspect, or dealing with that ideology. And that's up to you, right? Now, they have the seventh one as the dark tongue. Now, we know the Sith has their own language. I'm going to apply this principle, though, on a multi-level on this path. When we do the rituals here, we always make sure we use the ancient tongue, right? We translate it in English. So if you've ever attended a ritual down here, for an example, those who have can verify what I'm about to say. If we're working a certain path and there's a specific language that is used in that ritualistic path, we do the ritual in that language. But we follow it up with the English translation for those participating, so they can get the full grasp, meaning, and understanding of the work that's being done. Because if you can't, that's pointless. To just go through any ritual, be it group or individual, and to go through the motions and not understand it, especially when you're doing invocations, it's very important to zone in on the focus and the power of the words. So the original tongue is very important in your ritualistic work. Now, if you're just starting out or newer on the path, let me make this clear. I'm not telling you to pressure yourself into learning any of these ancient languages at first. It's always recommended, a good teacher would tell a student to first learn it in your native language, number one, get the concepts and the principles down packed first, and then, where it gets to a point down the road, start looking in those areas or aspects to learn whatever tongue, language that it's in. Now, we know in a lot of these ancient cultures and civilizations, the ancient languages and tongues have more tones, vibrations, and frequencies to it, especially when doing mantras and chants. It's not the same thing when you're doing it in English, because you're not hitting the same level of frequencies and vibrations that open up centers of your psyche, and which that takes you to a whole nother state of consciousnness. It elevates you to a whole nother state of consciousness. So it is important. I don't want to disregard that. I've talked about it off and on over the years. Those that just took the recent online classes that just ended, we focused on that and some of the material for the class. You will understand that, especially if you're somebody that likes to perform, even on an individual level. If you're somebody that likes to really go and do that full-blown ritualistic setting and incorporating, quote unquote, what they say, all the bells and the whistles, is very important. But you'll understand that as it goes on. All right. This is a very important. This right here is probably one of the most powerful pillars to understand in working your magic. In my opinion, this pillar also connects to the 7 Hermetic principles of Tahuti, which are key, concrete, and foundation on this path. So let's go through this real fast. They're all short little sentences. Sith mystics believe that everything imaginable exists in a larger multiverse of mind. We always say on this path, you're always creating your universe or universes, which becomes multiverses. Anything the mind can imagine or create exists somewhere in these multiverses, because you wouldn't be able to conjure it up if it didn't. Now, just because it may not exist in the next individual's multiverse or multiverses, that doesn't mean it's not a reality. It's just not a reality to them. So this is where you get your power from. And we always say on this path, the multiverse is key, or the subjective realm is key to enhancing the power of your magic. This is something we will focus on in the Sith ritual that we will do next month. How to cultivate that power, how to tap into the power of the mind. Because in essence, as I've said many times before, when you remove the imagery and the physical stuff, really in essence, all you need is this. These physical things, these images, our altars in our chamber room, that just enhances the setting, and the imagery is needed. And I've said a million times before, I'm down with all that, but you have to get yourself to the ability to be able to access this power straight from your mind. If you understand Sith philosophy, no matter what aspect of it you've read, the Grand Book of Sith, which is another great book, I've gone over that a few times, and I plan on tapping back into that. You will understand the power of the mind when you go through what, the Sith ideology represents. It really, in essence, as a nutshell, represents everything that we embody on this path. Again, I want to make sure we're removing, sometimes people just get caught up in the Star Wars fantasy aspect of it. I'm not focusing on that. It's fun. It's a great thing. It's in itself. Now, here's an example of what I mean with archetypes. Don't get caught up in the literalness of that word, because, again, I'm finding, as dialoguing with people recently, people think an archetype just identifies with the deity in a specific pantheon. It doesn't. The whole Sith doctrine and ideology is an archetype. It's a concept. It's a system. It's a spiritual path. That is classified as an archetype. I want to make that clear. So we're using the archetype of the Sith philosophy and doctrine and how we can apply that to our everyday path. That's what the ritual will focus on. All right. There's a ritual called the sharpening of the blade. You might have seen in some of the Grand Book of Sith and other writings. The work that we will do on that next month will be centered around that concept. And sharpening the blade is the focal point or the tool that one would have to utilize to themselves, which is the mind, right? So this is probably one of the most important ones. So let's finish this short paragraph here, right? Therefore, the Sith of the galaxy far, far away are real, but exist in another universe, accessible only through the third eye. The basis of this belief was their inter-universal transmission of knowledge from Darth Omega to our order's founder, Darth Imperius. That's this order. Let's look at Darth Vader, right? The icon or archetype from the movie called Darth Vader. He would be a representation of the adversary, right? Why would he be the representation of the adversary? Obviously, very obvious, because he was adverse to so-called the Jedi philosophy, the do-gooders, because he knew it was a bunch of bullshit. He knew it was an illusion. He knew chasing this false concept of world peace, unity, and love didn't exist. And he applied the previous principle we talked about, dominance and power. And he knew the weak wouldn't survive, only the strong would. But in order to take hold and gain that power, you have to enforce your will. Utilize that same concept in life in general. If you don't have that mentality, call it being, prey or predator. It's the same concept. Either you are a predator And a predator is always looking for prey to conquer, to dominate, to control on all levels, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, physically, and yes, financially. Okay? You should always want to dominate economics financially in your life to be successful, whether it's your business, your career, or whatever it is you do. So this filters out into every aspect of your life. Don't just look at it on the surface and take it, just as what it means on the surface. Again, the ritualistic work we will do next month will show you how to apply that and filter that out in your everyday life. And we will have a section on this in the next online session. It'll be a whole session on this. We will go in hard on this and in depth. From rituals to concepts. And again, I did respond. I know some of you's, actually someone's already registered. I will have that information fully done out this weekend for sure. All right. It is pretty much done. I just got to go over a few, what do they call that? Proof things, whatever. So all the information for that to register for the end of March, that'll be out this weekend. And this is going... This is going to a whole nother series. And this thing is just going to continue on and on and on, because there's no such thing as ever waking up thinking you got it all together and you know everything. The moment you wake up and you feel you're content, satisfied, and you know everything, you might as well just go kill yourself. It doesn't exist. I hate to say it. You should always be hungry for that power, for that knowledge and that wisdom. And the passion and the desire is what's supposed to fuel that. So we're constantly seeking on this path. There's no such thing as a Christian who is content and comfortable in their little fictitious faith belief religion. They're comfortable with doing the same routine week in and week out. They're comfortable in repeating the same old shit week in, week out, year in, year out. Right? Most people that need to get into a comfort zone are usually masking a high level of insecurities. All right. And then the last one, and I'm going to kind of give the spin on this on our path, not so much what it says here. Galactic Empire. For the Sith, the cosmos is a call to greatness and a place to acquire unlimited power. The primary exoteric goal of the Sith is to drive civilization toward even higher levels of organization and power, right? To establish global, solar, and galactic empires worldwide, right? That's the last one. How we should look at that on this path is, again, not just, organization-wise, structure, rule, and discipline. Not in that sense. I wouldn't look at it in that sense. I would look at having yourself, having a structure and a foundation that you created for yourself. I want to make that clear. That is one of the most challenging tasks and goals you're going to find on this path, is coming up and creating that path for yourself. Because as I just said a few minutes ago, I'm going to make this clear. I'm going to say it again if you came on a little late and missed it. You are not going to get the answers all the time from somebody or someplace. There are certain things you will have to do to get the answers for yourself. I want to make this clear. Unfortunately, I still see people that don't want to let go of the teacher's hand. So the question is, a Sith always says to himself, if you're supposed to be the ruler of your destiny, he or she, right? You have to ask yourself, when do you let go and stop being a follower and let go of the guru and the teacher's hand and become the teacher and the master yourself? That's what this path is about. Unfortunately, I'm going to keep it real. There's a lot of people, quote unquote, who claim to be on this path, okay? But they still have a follower mentality, a follower mode. How do I know that? I'm not being judgmental. I'm not speaking to anybody specifically, because of the questions some people ask. You can always tell by the line of questioning and the content of the question. You could always tell by the behavior, the personality, and the characteristics. Are they a follower, or are they somebody that's really on the path to self-mastery? Well, this ideology there's no place for followers, because followers are prey. Followers get devoured, eaten up, and spitting out. You will get taken advantage of and crushed if that's how you apply this path. All right. What I'm going to do, because as I said, I can't stay on here too long. I have something to do in about 30 minutes. I have some clients I got to deal with starting at 5 o'clock. So I figured I'd just come on and squeeze this in. So I know it's probably not too much in the chat. I'm going to go through some of your comments. And again, I know there's not too many people. Well, some people, we got about 15 people here. Again, this was a last minute thing. I didn't even plan on doing this. I will be on again tomorrow night. Don't miss tomorrow. The regular, it's the regular night I come on. I will be talking about the path of Obia, which is the path of Papa Bones. We will be dealing, we'll go into that in depth. I know a lot of people have sent emails requesting to do something on that. I just never got around to it. So I finally figured I would get around to it. And we will be going in on that tomorrow night. All right. So peace to Sister Yvette. Yes, I see Sister Sonia corrected. It's Bokor, which is the term for a elder priest or somebody who has a high status in the Voodoo pantheon via through initiation or an elder. And we'll go into that when we will have Bokor Rodney Coleman on Primordial Chaos Radio on the next show. So look for something coming out with that soon. I just want to put that out there. You guys should be getting the email on that. All right, what else we got? Let's see. We have many. Again, not too much stuff in the chat, which I understand. Obviously, this was a last minute thing. But yeah, you see also Sister Sonia put up there the email for if you need more information on the upcoming online classes, which is going to start again at the end of March. Again, we just finished one 2 weeks ago. This two weekends ago. I usually take a little bit of a break in between just to kind of let it absorb. We will be restarting up end of March. Some of you have already emailed me. I've already responded back. Again, to throw out there the ritual, that'll be upcoming on the 25th of this weekend coming up. Wednesday will be the cutoff. I just want to remind you, 23rd is the cutoff to request an invite for that ritual. This ritual, which deals with Apep, the adversary of chaos and darkness, all I can tell you is this: for those that are coming to that ritual this weekend, be prepared to be honest with yourself. That's the best advice I can give you, because this ritual is going to require a strong aspect of that. And what we do stays in the chamber room. But all I can do is tell you this. If you're really looking to, as they say, purge, quote unquote, deal with your bullshit, this is going to be centered around that. We will intentionally be bringing up the chaotic energy. That's what the first portion of the ritual will deal with, and it's done intentionally. And then, of course, there will be individualistic work each individual will do and contribute. So if you are coming, I would tell you come with that mindset. Be real with yourself. All right? All right. So I don't think there's really much here, but let me go through. I'm probably going to cut this in a few minutes. All right, what else we got? Yeah, Sister Yvette, that's a good comment. Whoever wrote the script for Star Wars knew about the system, but they watered it down for the dummies. Well, obviously, George Lucas, who is the creator of Star Wars, you also have to understand, which there's a reason why I say that, he's also married to a African woman, African-American woman. He obviously has been influenced by a lot of these esoterical, warrior type of philosophies and doctrines. He definitely has tapped into something there. So yes, there's definitely a construct there that was intent, because it really gets into the principles a lot of these secret secret, sacred orders that go back generations upon generations. The Templars are the assassins, because dealing with the concepts of creed, they all creeds and dogmas, philosophies, spiritual practices, to the very aspect of symbols and dress code. Yes, you could definitely see that. But yes, Star Wars obviously watered it down. All right. Yes, and something that Sister Sonia typed in: power, passion, dominance, force, second, primordial will, harmony of Set and Horus. That's harmonizing both of those energies. Principle of gender. Figure shit out on your own, in essence. Group work. Yeah, all of those things are connected. They serve their purpose. There's a point. There's an aspect for them. It's up to you to determine how you're going to utilize that. But the key thing probably in there, that, again, she typed in, that I want to go back on real quick. You will have to figure some of this out on your own. Okay, you're not going to get everything from a book. You're not going to figure everything out from just being here and watching videos, or anybody else's videos for that matter. They're good as tools and aids to push you in the right direction, motivate you. But the real inner understanding of a lot of this shit comes from you doing your consistent work. And I can't stress enough, I'll say it again. People that struggle on this path are not consistent at what they do. It's that simple. It's not even that deep. Because anytime I get somebody that's always trying to find something away from themselves to blame for their failures, is usually that individual. It's always, I couldn't do it because such and such, or these group of people are out to get me, or they have some personal shit going on in their life that they use as a crutch to lean on. Well, you know what? Join the club. It's called fucking life. If you're a god or a goddess, you need to figure out a way to get around that. Stop making excuses. Stop finding reasons why you can't. Because it amazes me how people can find all the reasons why they can't, but they can't find one reason why they can't. That bothers the shit out of me. Because it's so funny how the person that can do that, they're so quick to spit a bunch of reasons why they can't. And it's so quick how it comes to their mind, their head, this, that, boom. Then when you ask them, well, give me one reason why you can't, they got to literally stop and pause and really think about it. Which again shows me follower mentality, not applying the knowledge that they're learning, simply not really on the path like they think they are. And then it should also be a telltale sign you must go back and reevaluate yourself and figure out what is causing that. Because the key on this path is understanding those things about yourself, not just talking about it. It's great we want to talk about it. Yeah, you got to deal with your shit. Yeah, okay, but what are you doing other than saying that? It's great. Are you saying that you got to deal with your shit over and over to pacify yourself, to make yourself feel good? So when you're saying it, ask yourself, am I actually utilizing techniques to apply it? What am I doing to correct the fucked up shit about myself other than saying it and talking about it? Well, it's very easy to detect that. Again, it's not to be judgmental. When you have the power of being in tune with these energies and frequencies, whatever the fuck you want to call it, your intuition is enhanced, your clairvoyance and telepathy and all those things that come along with it, enforcing your will, it's easy to see, feel, sense, and know. And I can tell, it's like something my mother used to say, I can smell dog shit from a mile away. Unfortunately, when you start to grow on this path, you can sense the bullshit in other people. It just comes with the territory. It's not being judgmental. And I've said, you can go back to videos I did, first videos I ever did on this channel. I've always said many times over the years in many different videos, you cannot fake the funk on this path. You can try, but you cannot, because there will be a time where you will have to show forth and prove your power and verify you are who you say you are. Not just because you read a book, not just because you adopted some spiritual philosophy or system because you like it, it makes you feel good, and you've created this delusionary character about yourself. That's not demonstrating your power. I'm talking about you will have to show forth your magic. Those that if you're confused and don't understand what I'm saying right now, there's a reason for that. Those that are not confused about what I just said, you know what I'm talking about. I'm going to leave that point there. I'm not going to get into too much of that right now. I keep throwing that out there over the years because there's a reason. You may not understand it now, but I guarantee you, you'll be that moment in life. You're going to reflect back on this statement that I say, and be like, damn, that's what the fuck he meant. Okay? So the reason why I did the video faking the funk a couple weeks back. Okay? Fortunately, we got too many motherfuckers faking the funk. But that falls to the wayside. All right? So what else we got? I think we're going to wrap it up. What else we got? Okay. And so you continue with utterance, mind, power, all the things we were talking about. Mentalism as above, so below, and the source fluidity. All those things. Tanisha said, if you are living, you are growing. You should be learning and growing. True indeed. Okay, Shiva segment. I just put a Sith Star Wars fight on my altar during the blood moon. I get my answer from the ethers. Cool. Okay. Yeah, so it's good that people use, again, because let me show you this. All right, let me grab mine. And I'll finish with this. This is the one I keep on my black magic also. This is my little guy here that represents something to me. Why? When you're working with icons, images, always take into context colors, symbols, right? Now, there's obviously many different things out there you can utilize, okay? I chose this because the red sword. I wanted to have something with the red and the black, right? When I'm looking at this, if I'm doing a mental visualization, right, you always see the Sith warrior obviously cloaked in black. No different than La Santissima Muerte because black embodies all of the primordial chaos. That's why in a lot of these esoterical, mystical orders, brotherhoods, etc., why black is the choice of color. Black is a manifestation of everything. It's a manifestation of all that primordial chaotic energy. It's the source, right? Where all things manifest from, right? And that's why you see that, right? You will see in the Sith order different masks, right? The masks represent the nature and personality and characteristics of the individual, right? That's why you will see different masks. It's supposed to represent your personality. Just like when you look at the masks or the animal mask, for an example, in the Egyptian pantheon, they represent the nature and characteristics of the personality of that particular archetype of deity, right? The red or the sword, and the ritual we're going to do next month deals with the power of the blade. I'm not going to get into too much now. And the reason why I like this one, because it's red, it represents the passion, right? That everything that I was talking about on them first, well, mainly the first 2-3 pillars, right? Very important. So for an example, I'm just giving you an example with this. You apply this to every other concept. So when I have this on my altar, once you start really disciplining your mind, right? This nigga talking to y'all next time. Once you start disciplining your mind, right? It just becomes second nature. So now when I look at any of these symbols, because that's what they are, we're not externally worshiping them. What this does is when I immediately look at this, everything I just said is activated in my psyche. And then that filters out into the work I do ritualistically. That's how you work with an archetype in reference to a deity. But connected to this archetype, right? The Sith is all those things we just talked about. So stop fucking saying archetypes. If you think an archetype is just another term for a deity, you're fucking confused. You don't know what you're talking about. I can't stress that enough. The whole Sith philosophy is an archetype. So when you really know how to work with archetypes, the symbols of them, and this being a main symbol of it, when I look at this, it activates everything that I just talked about. All I got to do is look at it, and then my mind starts to activate everything that's connected with it. That's how you work magic, people. Anybody that tells you otherwise has no fucking clue what they're talking about. Because when you look at these people teaching about Egypt, they're making you focus on the deity subconsciously on an external level. Same thing when I look at Heru, Tahuti, it doesn't matter what it is. That's what should be running through the mind. Well, these motherfuckers are making you think that it's just a deity. And when you think it's just a deity, you're back to religion and man worship. It doesn't work, people. Trust me when I tell you, it doesn't work. This will hinder your magic. It will hinder your growth. It will create blockages. You will go into your work confused, not understanding it. I'm not talking about on the surface, because we all think on the surface we got to figure it out and fully understand it. But remember, the unconscious is always looking for something to absorb on. And if you're not, focused on that, what you're intaking, then it can become very chaotic and confusion, and not in a good way. Chaos can be detrimental if you don't know how to work with it. So to an individual that hears the word chaos and thinks it's something bad, they're an individual that doesn't understand their own personal chaos, okay? They just don't understand it. And point blank, again, when you look at this symbol, it embodies everything of it. And that's what this is. It's a symbol, people. It's not something to worship. Everything that I just talked about, again, I want to make this clear, the proper way to work with an archetype, the whole Sith philosophy, the 9 pillars I just went over, and all the other many things that I have not yet touched on, which I plan on touching on them in different sections, is what activates while putting a symbol like this on your altar. And I did this because I saw some of you type in, I have this icon on my altar. Well, I want to make sure we have a thorough understanding. I hope, I'm not saying you have to look at it exactly like that, but I hope you look at it in some shape, form, or fashion and utilize it on that level. And when you do, it can be a very, very powerful thing, okay? So when you look at it, it should activate all of those aspects of your psyche of what the archetype of Sith philosophy doctrine represents. So an archetype is not just a deity. And anybody that tells you they don't work with archetypes, they're confused. Because a concept is an archetype. Even if they created it themselves, it's an archetype that they constructed as far as how to apply it to themselves. And that's a beautiful thing. But it's still an archetype. It's an archetype that they created, right? No different. Because when I'm saying archetype, I want to make it clear. I work with many archetypes, tons of archetypes, okay? Because that's what you do on this path. If you think that that just means deity, it shows you don't study. It shows you're confused and you're not really understanding what you're doing, okay? So anybody that says they don't work with archetypes and are on this path, I would really like to see how that's possible, okay? Because it's an individual who thinks that Tahuti and all these deities, those are archetypes. They're small fragments or parts of what an archetype represents, right? So let's make sure we're clear on that, all right? Anyway, people, I got to wrap this up. As I said, this was a last minute thing. I do have clients I got to start dealing with starting at 5 o'clock. So let me get off of here, get myself ready for that. Again, last minute thing. I know not many people you were able to catch it live. I'm sure you'll be able to catch it later when it posts. Again, we will do a working next month down here in Florida dealing with the Sith philosophy and mastery. We've got a really nice working plan. I'm going to start using that term, not just rituals, to access this. We got the one upcoming this Friday evening. We'll have the online classes starting again at the end of March. I'll start responding to that. And if you are interested in a spiritual reading or a consultation, or you want info on online classes, just email me at the email in the description box, khnum19@gmail.com. I'll be live tomorrow night. We'll be doing the show tomorrow night on the path of Obia and Papa Bones. We got Bokor Rodney Coleman coming on Chaos Radio, the next show. I'll be putting that out soon. Don't miss that one. He's a very interesting brother. And then I will get more in depth with different aspects of Sith philosophy and Sith doctrine, but actual practices and techniques. And I got something interesting planned for that in the spring session, which is going to be very thorough and detailed. All right. Anyway, peace, people. We will talk soon.